Hello, everyone. This is Mike. I hope that everyone is enjoying a nice off season. By off season, I mean we're no longer in the snowmobile season, and I hope that you're having a positive experience of that. I wanted to thank everyone who was there for the season, the last season we've had with the Vintage Snowmobile podcast. We had an absolutely wonderful time with that. It was bittersweet to close out the season because it's kind of sad to bring it to a close, but at the same time, spring is coming. It's a very different mindset, and it's time to move on to summer things. And I'll be getting into what's going on for the summer here in just a few moments. But while we're waiting to do that, pardon me, I wanted to show you something. My girlfriend and I were at a yard sale not too long ago, and look what I stumbled onto. I'm going to take you a close look, give you a close look at each one. But I don't know what town it was. It was either Plainfield, Vermont, or Marshfield. Um, but let's take a look. There's some curious things about some of these patches, and these are patches from back in the day. This is a time capsule that I stumbled onto. This is the Russell Holmes Memorial Ride-In is a ride-in that we went to when I was a kid in Canaan, Vermont. Russell Holmes was someone in our town. Now, Canaan, Vermont, incidentally, is a good hour to hour and a half away from Plainfield or Marshfield. So I don't know how these ended up there, but uh, I'm sure there's a perfectly logical explanation. There was no one there really to ask, but check out this: the Marshfield Snowmobile Club, the Marshfield Demons, and this is back in the '70s. Remember when everyone had these patches on their snowmobile suits? In fact, I've got a shot here from 1971. Check out this dude with all the patches on his suit. Now, back in the day, this is one seriously cool dude wearing all those patches. As far as I'm concerned, I was just a young child in elementary school, but I would have loved that. I would have loved seeing that guy with all those patches because I love those, and I had a few patches on my own clothing as well. Here's another patch that came from the from that yard sale, the Granite City Ride-In. Now, Granite City is Barrie, Vermont, from 1975, Rock of Ages. So if you're just joining us, I'm sharing some vintage snowmobile patches that my girlfriend and I picked up at a yard sale a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to go through each one and talk them up. And then we've got some announcements and some things to talk about. Um, Here's another patch, Northeast Kingdom of Vermont Ride-In from 19, let's say 1970, 1978. Yeah, 1978. Very, very cool. Now, this is a more modern one. This is from 1999, Shrine Circus. I presume that's something to do with the Shriners and the Maple Leaf. Maybe that was in Quebec, which we are not far from Quebec, so this is completely plausible. Not sure what the story is behind that patch. Now, this one is from another year of the Northeast Kingdom ride-in. Guess what year that would have been? 1976. The spirit of 76. And for those of you who were around in 76, who doesn't remember all of the noise and the hoopla and the celebration and the jubilation around it being 1976, the bicentennial year. You remember on CBS every night, Walter Cronkite would have a little 1 minute clip about what was happening during the revolution. And at the end of that little clip, he'd say, and that's the way it was 200 years ago today. Who remembers that? If you remember that, leave me a comment if you would. Let me know if you remember that. I know I enjoyed seeing those every evening, and they did that throughout the whole year of 1976, just about every night. Here's from another Northeast Kingdom ride-in. This one's 1974. I'm trying to get my fingers. Everything's backwards as I look at this in the camera. So uh, there we go. Oh no. Anyway, it's like doing this in a mirror. Everything's backwards as I try to line this up. But this is the Northeast Kingdom ride-in by the Caledonia Clubs, 1974. Cool patches. Now we do have a comment coming in. I've got some more patches coming in, but let's see if we get some. Here we go. Don Farnsworth, a dear friend of mine. He remembers 1976. He was around for that, and I bet he remembers hearing not Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite doing his little 1 minute revolution history thing, and wrapping it up by saying, "And that's the way it was 200 years ago today." So another patch here, the Newport Safari, 1975. And I remember seeing these on people's clothing. we had relatives in Newport. I grew up in Canaan, Vermont, but we had relatives in Newport. I'm from Newport originally, so we would see people in Newport, and I remember seeing those patches. Here's another Shrine Circus from 1994. This is a more modern one. Now, I don't know if these just got tossed in. I don't know if these are snowmobiling related or not, the modern ones, but I'm saving the most interesting one for last. Now, I mentioned that I grew up in Canaan, Vermont, and I found these patches about an hour to an hour and a half away, either in Plainfield or Marshfield, Vermont. And look at what I found. This is our old club patch from Canaan, Vermont, when I was a kid in the 70s. This is in excellent condition. This patch. We all of us in our family and all of our friends that would ride together, we all had this very patch on our clothing. Every one of us had a patch like this on our jacket. So to stumble onto that, my heart skipped a beat, possibly even two beats. Uh, this is our old this is our old club patch, man. That's that's exciting. Let's talk about a time capsule traveling back in time. So yeah. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about, and another announcement, if you will, is I've been in touch with our good friend Midge Rosebrook. Now, Midge is the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, and one of his contacts has sent him some Super 8. You remember the old 8 millimeter video from back in the day in the early 70s? Well, someone had some of those tapes, some of those films. I guess they call them films, yeah, from 1971. Talk about a time capsule. And they've had them digitized. These 8 millimeter films have been digitized. There are probably 5 or 6 of them, and these are films that were taken, 8 millimeter films that were taken back in 1971, both at some Lancaster, New Hampshire races and some races in Malone, New York. So Midge and I have taken upon this project. This is our summer project we're going to work on together. I'm going to, through the miracle of video editing, I'm going to put these together, and there are a lot of drive-bys and so forth. I'm going to slow them down so we can kind of get a closer look at some of the riders. But I'm going to take a comment here, and I'm going to take some still shots just from one of the reels. Someone saying great job, and I thank you so much for that. So here are some still shots. Like for instance, the gentleman with the patches we were looking at a moment ago. That is a still shot from one of those 8 millimeter reels back in 1971. This is a time capsule that we've stumbled onto here. So Midge and I are. This is our summer project. We hope to have it ready for the fall for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony in Lancaster on September 10th or 11th. Let me look at pulling up a calendar here. I'll tell you exactly. September 10th in Lancaster, New Hampshire. But these are some still shots that I've taken from these videos. So this is from a race back in Lancaster, New Hampshire, back in 1971. This is a time capsule. These are some still shots that I've taken, and Midge and I are going to work together to try to identify some of these racers and come up with as many stories and details about what's on these videos as we can. We're going to put it together into a presentation and have it finished as a DVD that the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame can sell as a fundraiser. Now, the fundraiser will be raising funds for 3 different entities. Uh, the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, of course, a third of the proceeds will go to the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Another third of the proceeds will go to Crane's Snowmobile Museum in Lancaster, New Hampshire. And anyone who's kind of in the loop on everything with the Hall of Fame, Paul Crane at Crane's Snowmobile Museum is the one who hosts the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony every year. So he's a big part of this as well. The two of them, Paul Crane and Midge Rosebrook, run the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. They're the co-founders of it. And then the other third, of course, will go toward the Vintage Snowmobile podcast to help offset the cost of doing the podcast. And of course, I'm doing all of the editing and burning the DVDs, supplying the DVDs, the labels, the whole thing. So a third of that will go to help promote what you're looking at right now. And if anyone who is viewing this, if you know the names of any of these riders, please put it in the comments. We would love to hear of it. Some of them we know, some of them we don't know, but we're going to do our best to try to get as many names as possible of some of these riders. Again, if you're just joining us, these are some screenshots of some digitized 8 millimeter film reels that Midge Rosebrook, the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, has stumbled upon. And he and I are going to work on this as a summer project to put a DVD together to have stories and details around these videos for all of us to enjoy as a kind of a time capsule of racing back in 1971. If you enjoyed that snowmobile scene and racing and everything as much as we did, this is something you might want to own as a time capsule. This DVD that we're working on, um, and if you're curious about the DVD, just send me an email. There's a link to my email address in the description. I'm also going to pop it on the screen. This is the way you would send me an email. And if you're sending me an email in capital letters, bold capital letters, type "Time Capsule Snowmobile DVD," so that it'll stand out to me. So that your email will stand out to me as I'm checking my emails, and I'll keep you posted as to the progress and the details around this DVD. But this still shot from the 8 millimeter reels shows you the kind of crowds that these races would generate. Now, at the peak in Lancaster, 72, 73, whenever that peak was, they counted one year at the peak 15,000 people that bought tickets to go watch this racing, to stand out there in the cold like that. They also had bleachers and seating and the whole thing. But this would draw people out in the freezing cold, like thousands and thousands of people would come out into the freezing cold to watch this spectacle, this crazy new sport of snowmobiling. It was exciting to do, exciting to watch, and just so much excitement around it. Anyone who was around in the early 70s remembers just what a crazy, wonderful, magnificent time that was. Um, Snowmobiling and racing and just everything around that in the early 70s. It was just, there's nothing like it as far as in my experience in my life. Snowmobiling has always been wonderful, but something very, very special about the early 70s. And if you agree with that, please make me a comment in the comment section. Maybe share with me a memory of the early 70s of your memories of that, and if you thought it was special, and if you thought it was special, what was special about it. So again, these are just still shots of the 8 millimeter uh, film that we found from racing in Lancaster, New Hampshire, and Malone, New York. And we're Midge Rosebrook and I, Midge is from the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. We're working on this as a summer project to put a DVD together to have these, so we can all enjoy these 8 millimeter film reels in digital form. And we're going to try to supply as many stories and details and that sort of thing around these video clips for all of us to enjoy and just preserve those incredible memories of yesteryear. Um, Now, this might be, I'm not certain. I'm posing this more as a question than a statement, but I'm wondering. Oh, I just answered my own question. I was just about to say, I think this might be Cal Reynolds, but if you take a closer look at that white graphic on the side of his helmet, it says Cal. So I'm now 98.6% sure that this is Cal Reynolds. Yeah, one of the absolute great racers of the East. I've had a chance to meet him and interview him several times. Absolutely amazing person. He's been inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, and yeah, just a really cool guy. So yeah, if you're curious about this DVD of the vintage snowmobile racing, there back in the day it was just snowmobile racing. Now it's vintage snowmobile racing. But if you're curious about getting your hands on one of these DVDs once it's finished, this is our summer project. Just send me an email. I'll pop that email address on the screen. It's also in the comment section. And when you're sending me an email, just type in the comments in the subject line, uh, "Time Capsule Snowmobile DVD" in capital letters, so that your email stands out to me as I'm checking my email. And my email address is there on the screen. Um, Send me an email, and I will keep you posted as to the progress and details around this DVD. So, the last thing I wanted to tell you about today is during the last season of the Vintage Snowmobile podcast, you heard me mention several times that over the summer months, I'm going to be doing a muscle car podcast. And the season opener of that very muscle car podcast is tonight. Tonight is the night. Here is the graphic for the Muscle Car Show and Tell podcast. We're going to have footage from car shows, interviews with people who are exhibitors at car shows. We're going to have some announcements. We're going to do kind of a trading post segment. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun, and I hope that you will decide to join us. There are a couple of ways you can join us. There are links in the description. This is going to simulcast to 7 different places on Facebook and YouTube, and there are links to one of the YouTube destinations and one of the Facebook destinations in the description. So if you'd like to join us for the podcast, the Muscle Car Podcast, I hope that you will. If most of us who enjoy vintage snowmobiles also enjoy muscle cars, just kind of a strange thing. that was such a wonderful time. The snowmobiles, the cars, the movies, the music. Uh, I don't know, the styles, the clothing styles kind of didn't hold up over time, but man, everything else sure did. What an amazing time that was, the 70s, especially the early 70s. Greg Prue says, nice. Thank you so much. Doug Renster says, sweet boss. Absolutely. That Mustang. In fact, I'll pop that on the screen so we can enjoy some more of that. Yeah. So that is pretty much it. That's what I had for you today in the way of announcements. I hope that you will decide to partake of that DVD. We're going to do that as a fundraiser for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, Cranes Snowmobile Museum, and the Vintage Snowmobile Podcast. This will go to help all three of those entities offset the costs of their operations. I'll keep you posted uh, as the details progress as far as the cost of the DVD, and we're still having discussions as to exactly what we're going to include in the DVD because there'll be some stories and information about uh, the history of snowmobiles and snowmobile racing in Lancaster, New Hampshire, and we've got quite a few options as to things that we can include in the DVD to make it a really nice, worthwhile package for anyone who likes uh, the history of the snowmobile, and especially as it pertains to Lancaster, New Hampshire, which is kind of the epicenter for much of Eastern snowmobiling. Um, yeah. And then, of course, join me, please, tonight for the Muscle Car Show and Tell podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There are links in the description. Just click those links and you can join in the fun. And I hope to see you there. Please, as you're viewing the podcast, please help to blow up the comment section. Make some comments. Tell me, just say hi and let me know where you're viewing it from. And if you have a muscle car or if you like muscle cars, what's your favorite muscle car? What muscle car do you own? I'd love to hear from you. So please, during the podcast tonight, please light up that comment section. Let me know that there's some activity out there and people viewing it. That will give me the support and the encouragement that I need to keep that going and do something really positive with that. This is something I'm more starting from scratch. This is a second season. The first season was a very modest attempt. I'm trying to do something a little more robust with it now for the second season. And if you like what I was doing with the Vintage Snowmobile podcast and you like muscle cars, I encourage you to join me for this little adventure, and I thank you in advance for your support in that. So with that, I'm going to call it a day, but thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you tonight on the Muscle Car Podcast. Have yourself a great day.